What is that you're writing there, Dan? Is that a Post-it note that says Danny's soul?
Yeah, there's no such thing. I need to make a couple of quick bucks. Do you want to buy my soul? I don't need it.
I guess I feel obligated to, so it doesn't get into the wrong hands. Sure, here's $5.
Sucker.
'Cause if this was our destiny, I'd treasure the fact, and I'd give you what's left of me if I held back. But I don't need a soul. No, I don't need a soul to hold. Without you, I'm still whole. You and life remain beautiful. You and life remain beautiful.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Simpsons did it.
Yeah. I can't think about this song title without thinking about the
Bart Sells His Soul episode.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I like that we did that in perfect synchronicity.
What, you grabbed your phone and I moved my drink?
No, we both said the same thing.
I'm confused. This is a fitting song for me this week because I feel like crap emotionally. So it kind of works out perfectly. Like the sort of like beaten down but ready to get back up again. You get knocked down, you get back up again theme of this song.
There's still a sense of hope here.
Yeah. Lean forward. You got lint in your hair.
Sorry.
Oh, it's still there. See, now, if you didn't have a soul to hold and it wasn't me, who would take the lint out of your hair? Nobody.
Yeah.
You'd
April.
have it. No, it's not tasty enough. She wouldn't want to get it.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yes, today we're talking about I Don't Need a Soul from Forget and Not Slow Down. That's an album by the band Relient K.
Oh.
Welcome to all of you Eve 6 fans who have discovered the podcast.
Right. I forgot about that.
Which is maybe 4 people. I'm joking around, but the big Eve 6 Relient K seismic activity of 2021 happened earlier this week. And it was not a big deal. It was really weird. Like, I woke up whatever morning it happened, Monday or something, and it was like I had all these notifications of people who had tagged me in this Eve 6 thing where the guy from Eve 6... And do you know about the Eve 6 Twitter account? Like,
no.
About its place right now in sort of, like, popularity?
No.
So the Eve 6, I guess it's the guy, the singer or somebody from Eve 6 who has control of the account, and they use it to, like, be funny and to say things and tell weird jokes and tell weird stories and stuff.
Sure, that's what Twitter's for.
That is what Twitter's for. But, like, as far as having, like, a sense of humor about it, you know what I mean? And, like, telling things you wouldn't expect. That's, like, what the Eve 6 guy came back a couple months ago and sort of, like...
Like he's the Wendy's account?
Exactly, which also ties into
or the
news
Waffle
from earlier
House
this week.
or whatever.
Right. So, the Eve 6 account, whether or not, whatever you think of their music, the Eve 6 Twitter account is right now sort of in culture bigger than their music, maybe in a tiny way, because people follow just for, like, the jokes that the Eve 6 guy writes. But one of the things was he tweeted, like, is Relient K on Twitter, basically? Not in those exact words. Mm-hmm. And then everyone was like, what's going on? What's going on? Are Eve 6 and Relient K, like, working together? Like, Relevant Magazine wrote an article about the tweet. It's like, what did Eve 6 want from Relient K? So John Schneck, as we know, is the only, like, actively on social media guy. Well, Ethan is pretty active on social media, but, you know, as far as, like, members who continue to actively associate with Relient K, whereas Ethan has so many other things.
Right.
You don't necessarily think of him as the Relient K guy on Twitter. The Relient K guy on Twitter is John Schneck. Yes, Hoops is on there and everything, but he doesn't really actively tweet, and Thiessen doesn't actively tweet at all, like once or twice a year. So John Schneck got on there, talked to the Eve 6 guy. All the Eve 6 guy wanted to know was, what's the song by Relient K that references us, Eve 6? It's That's My Jam.
Yeah.
And...
Wait, so why aren't we doing That's My Jam this week?
Well, we've been preparing to do That's My Jam, but it's such a massive song. I mean, it's a short song, but all the references in it, we've been doing all this research. We've actually been working on the That's
a
My
massive
Jam
song that like nobody's heard of unless they had the whatever it was.
But
Walmart
there's so much to
edition or
talk
something.
about with that episode that we've actually been working on our notes for That's My Jam. It's like almost as big as the deathbed notes.
Just so many references.
In a way, That's My Jam is a more compact thing to unravel than Deathbed, because it's 3 minutes. It has more going on in a way than Deathbed. So he just wanted to know, what's that song? Instead of Googling it, like Relient K, Eve 6 lyrics, enter, Google. He had to ask Relient K, I guess because that was the fun part of it. And then once he had the answer, 12 hours later, he was like, okay, so I was hanging out with one of the guys from the Chainsmokers, and he told me how there's a Relient K song that references my band, Eve 6. So we got in his car and we listened to it, and he was like, this song's great. So apparently one of the guys from the Chainsmokers loves the song That's My Jam and introduced it to the guy from Eve 6. We should be doing That's My Jam this week, but we're not prepared to do it. We got to talk about Alanis Morissette. We got to talk about Boys to Men. We got to talk about Jane's Addiction. That's going to be a big episode. So that was the Eve 6 thing. And then there was the Wendy's thing, which isn't nearly as big. But there was like National Roast Day, where Wendy's will roast. They kind of moved on. I guess now when the Wendy's account roasts you, they really only want to roast verified accounts. Mm-hmm. They don't want to roast like nobodies anymore. Maybe they've had a problem with that. And it's like you roast somebody, it's like, hey, Wendy's, roast me, and then you roast them, and it's like, thanks, now let me tell you about the who owns Hollywood and who owns the banks. And you're like, oh no. So Wendy's is like, Wendy's just mocks verified accounts, and they mocked Relient K. Relient K asked for it. I guess it was Hoops. And the Wendy's burn was not very good. It was just said, talk about giving up slowly. And then I had a reply where I was like, and this is not a good joke to say when I'm supposed to be vegan starting in 2021, but I know this from at least 2020. I said, I'm begging you to stop asking me to buy a cookie every time I go through the drive-thru. And that got a lot of likes. So Wendy's cookie people, welcome to the podcast. Eve 6 fans and Wendy's fans who don't like to have to say no to cookies, welcome to the podcast. One of the things we do on this show is we play voicemails. So if you want to call up about Eve 6 or Wendy's cookies, do so. Call 402-95-SADIE. It's a regular call to Nebraska. We don't live in Nebraska. It's just a Google Voice number. I opened Google Maps by mistake. Hold on. Google Voice. Where did it go? I have no idea. It's been so long since we've done this show. Not really at all. Hold on. Oh, and one more big piece of top of the show news before we get going is this Friday. If you want to hear 2 Sadie Hawkins Pod episodes this week, go check out Punk Goes Pod.
Yes.
So we've talked about them in the past, but they're friends of ours and they live in Australia, and we're doing a crossover with them. They do the entire Punk Goes series song by song. So they talk about 2 bands pretty much every episode. They talk about the original song and the cover song from all the Punk Goes compilations. And Relient K was on Punk Goes 80s with Manic Monday, so we're appearing in their Manic Monday episode. And then they will appear in a couple of weeks in our Who I Am, Hate Who I've Been episode, because the acoustic version of that song is on Punk Goes Acoustic. When we did like the Magnified Pod crossover, you know, we kind of simulcast them and we each had our own different opening part. We're going to kind of do that, but if you want to hear this Manic Monday episode with us, you're going to have to go over to Punk Goes Pod's feed for now, because we're going to wait a couple months before we, like Mulan and Premier Access on Disney Plus, you're going to have to wait a couple months before we drop our, half version of Manic Monday along with the conversation from Punk Goes Pod in a couple of months. There's that. And so, yes, we do have voicemails.
Nice. Also, I wanted to say, because we forgot to mention it last week, but Grace Semler Baldridge, known as Semler, her album Preacher's Kid came out and it's doing really well. So that's exciting. So definitely go and check that out if you haven't already.
I will. Oh, and one other quick correction from last... This isn't so much a correction, but when Daniel called in last week, and then we congratulated him on his wedding, I made this logical switch to a different part of the conversation, but then when I listened to it in the edit, I'm like, oh, I didn't say anything that made people follow my logical switch up. I started talking about like babies. I started talking about like Sadie Hawkins pod babies, like how many children are going to be born from our listeners and stuff. But I made it
insinuating that You Can See My Socks at a shotgun wedding.
That's what it sounded like in the edit. I just didn't like. I do this all the time. I do it all the time. I don't know what it is, but I just like will switch course on a conversation and not actually give any logical segue out loud. I hear the segue in my head and I think everyone's heard it.
When you give two people with ADHD a podcast,
Yes.
Sadie Hawkins pod is what you get.
Exactly. So I just wanted to say it sounded weird when I meant to say like, and if they have a kid someday, it'll be the first Sadie Hawkins pod baby. Didn't say any of those connecting words. So anyway, here is This is not our thing. Hold on. What the heck? We got a text message that said, "Don't waste your free time doing nothing. Get paid $500 monthly." And then a tiny URL to learn about that. Exciting.
Yeah. I'm stoked to hear about these new podcast opportunities.
I don't think they're podcast opportunities. I think they just saw our talent as podcasters and they're like, "We can also pay you $500."
Oh, I see.
So here is the voicemail we have this week.
Hey, Danny and Jess. It's been a long while. I just wanted to say hi, and also, sorry I haven't been like calling you guys. I used to call y'all way more, but I think it's because like school was like canceled and stuff like that. But like now school's like really freaking hard and stuff, so I'm just like studying hours on end and like barely getting sleep. So I've not had time to call you guys. But I'm here to talk about my girl's ex-boyfriend, even though that episode was like, at this point, like 2 weeks ago, I guess? I don't know. I personally really like the song. It's a jam. I kind of have the same feeling like Jess, like I kind of like think about the song as if it were in my life, even though I have absolutely no correlation to anything that like ever happens in the song. But I've heard a lot of people on the internet talk about how this song is super sexist, kind of like the same Mood Rings argument that like it diminishes women and it just like, and like their argument is like, oh, it treats the girl in the story as like she's a trophy. I don't think that, but I'm curious to know if y'all like, one, if y'all ever heard of this theory, and two, like if y'all agree with it or not. But yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say. So bye.
So that was Beatrice. Thank you very much for calling.
Yeah, thanks.
I feel like I danced around that topic when we talked about my girl's ex-boyfriend. The idea that, because I kept comparing it to how it was the cheesiest song on the album, like My Girlfriend, Marilyn Manson, My Girlfriend, and Mood Rings, but how those songs are super problematic. And then I said how you could find problems in My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend if you wanted to. And I didn't really voice exactly what those problems were, but Beatrice just explained them. Like, yeah, the idea that she's somehow the prize, or that, like, they're both there for her, like, both the male characters in the song. Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I didn't, like, ever see it that way or read that into it or anything.
Right.
So I don't really find it degrading per se or anything.
Especially because we talked about how this is, like, an almost positive inversion of a common theme for this genre of music at the time. Mm-hmm. The idea that so many other pop rock and pop punk bands of the mid 2000s would mostly just say, I was in love with that girl and she treated me wrong and I hate her and she's a B word and all this stuff, to actually be like the nice guy that got the girl in the end. The nice guy, as far as, well, actually we don't know if the guy's a nice guy.
True.
Yeah, and I don't know if we touched on this too much. David Dizon's not going to be able to be listening to this part of this this part of the podcast because he hates this song. But I don't know if we got into this, but like I did touch on the fact that I don't think My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend is a literal Thiessen song. I don't think it is actually, with no proof on it, but just knowing what little stuff we know about Matt Thiessen's relationships and what relationship songs he's written that we know are based completely in fact. This one could be true. It could be an experience he actually had, but it also seems like a very easy to imagine fictional scenario. Mm-hmm. If you've ever watched a romantic movie, you could write a song like My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend. So I don't personally think that Matt Thiessen actually had the direct life experience displayed in this song. Certainly could have, but I'm just saying it doesn't read that way to me. It reads like a piece of fiction. It reads like a generalization of a trope. So in that way, it's not really sexist because, they're inverting that old pop punk trope. To use the word trope twice, but that pop punk trope of like, it's the girl's fault. And this time it's like, it was her boyfriend's fault. And like I said, you could say, we're almost done with this. Like I said, you could imagine that the ex-boyfriend of the title of the song is the lead singer of some other pop punk band who's off singing a song about her and saying it was her fault. But meanwhile, over here is Relient K singing a song from the new boyfriend's point of view and saying she's wonderful and I love her and we belong together and it was his fault. It was the ex-boyfriend's fault. Last thing on my girlfriend, I did the same thing then. My girl's ex-boyfriend, we completely forgot to mention, and I'm glad Beatrice brought up the song just so I can mention this, how the pre-gap track on Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right.
The humming and sleigh bell song, which we talked about the first time we ever talked about an Mm-hmm track. We talked about this pre-gap track. But the pre-gap track, which is also on Mm-hmm 10, later on in Mm-hmm 10, it's its own track. It's just called Mm-hmm. It's based on the melody of My Girl's Ex-Boyfriend. We completely forgot to I would have liked to have gone back and listened to that pre-gap track again, but it's in the past. Like that MXPX song, it's in the past. So
we're gonna forget and not slow down.
We're gonna forget and not slow down
and talk about this week's song,
which is I Don't Need a Soul. So you're excited to talk about the song, right? You really like this song.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite Relient K songs overall. And definitely one of the best off of what is already like a perfect album. I didn't realize until this week, or at least I didn't think about it until then, that there's a lot of coughing mentioned in Relient K songs.
Oh.
Everybody's always getting sick.
Weird. Yeah, would you have other examples, or are you just kind of generally...
It was just generalizing.
I could figure it out. Hold on. I have my lyric search tool. I thought you might have had them ready to go, but
like Deathbed, and I think it might be mentioned possibly in a Run-In. I could be wrong.
Okay.
It's like how they mention car crashes a lot, too.
Right, and they don't just mention car crashes, but they mention cars a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I accidentally pulled up my They Might Be Giants lyric search tool. Hold on. So, cough. Let's see. Run-In mentions coughs. I Don't Need a Soul mentions coughs, and that's all that mentions the word cough. So it's not that many.
No, I guess not. Well, me. What do I know?
Well, at least according to AZ, I pulled my search tool pulls from AZ lyrics. So if there's mistakes in there and the word cough is in a song that's not on AZ lyrics, then you are absolutely right.
For some reason, I really deserve to be on this podcast because I have a hard time talking about songs that I really, really love. It's so much easier to just talk about the songs that I don't love and be like, and this is why I don't like it. But the songs that I do love, I'm I don't know, they're just great. I don't know how to articulate that.
I think for one thing, this song in its position on the album is pretty perfect, right? Because off of the eponymous song, the title track, launching into this, especially how it has that slight little quieter part, And this is not super fast, but it's not mid-tempo either. It kind of feels right in the middle. It feels like 75% speed. It kind of keeps that rhythm going with the album. So where you kick off with Forget and Not Slow Down, that has that amazing build later in the song, right? And then you kind of slow stuff down with that like piano, that distant dreamy piano thing that happens at the beginning of this song. And then you launch with, and then you get Ethan with the, like the kickoff, like the two hits or whatever that launch this song going. It's like, oh, good, we're still in the same rhythm and pace as the first song. So we're like, we keep going. And these first 3 tracks on this album, which now we've covered all of them, and I think I've said this when I talked about Candlelight, but this like trilogy, this first 3 kickoff tracks, no pun intended saying kickoff, but like they're all on a similar tempo. They're all on kind of a similar cadence, but they are separate songs. They have completely different melodies, so it's not like you listen to the song and you feel like these first 3 songs are samey, but they're cut from this same kind of cloth where you like get comfortable and happy to be launched into this album. And later on, there's going to be some more ups and downs, like Sahara's going to get heavier, and Savannah's actually going to get dreamier and softer, and we're going to have a lot more ups and downs throughout the album, not in quality, but in terms of emotion. But to just really kick it off, almost like a really fun musical, like kick it off with just 3 amazing up-tempo, fun songs. Mm-hmm. And this one, it makes perfect sense as the second one.
It rolls so perfectly into, Candlelight.
And also, I didn't think of this, but thinking about it, I'm like now, this song kind of starts off with a soft rolling piano thing. Mm-hmm. But then it goes, and then you get those drums, and it kicks off, and it launches back in and picks up again. But that soft rolling piano is elsewhere on the album. It's like elsewhere in like Savannah, and Baby, and not Baby, but
Oasis.
So I have like it's easy to assume everything on Relient K. When every time you find one of those things, like you realize all the actual like connecting tissue and themes on when you normally think it's just a collection of songs. You're like, oh no, there's all this connecting tissue like there is with this album. Yepers. And there's all this deliberate connective tissue on this album. Sorry, go ahead. And
I just said yepers.
Okay. Yepers, that's right. Oh, we've forgotten about that. It's gotten easier to say over the course of the year and a half doing this podcast. Originally, I said saying the words is hard in conversation, so let's call the album Yuppers. But then later I saw a Matt Thiessen interview where he said that is more of a disappointed like another Relient K album. That was the original. At least in this one interview, that's what he claimed it was. Well, then there's all that. Then there's connective tissue in Air for Free, and people claim there's connective tissue in Collapsible Lung. So my point is, when you find these little connective things, like saying I Don't Need a Soul opens with soft rolling piano that is then immediately thrown away for the rest of the song, but is that soft rolling piano actually meant to like as a theme for later on in the album? It could be deliberate. Everyone would assume because it's Matt Thiessen and Relient K that it's deliberate.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not that deliberate. Maybe it just kind of worked out nicely. Like Bob Ross says, happy accidents. There's no mistakes. There's just happy accidents. Like maybe that was always there on its own, and then later on they were like, oh, actually this works out pretty well. It kind of gives you kind of another musical theme that connects the album.
Do you want to break down the lyrics a little bit?
Yes, because this is a song that I actually don't know the lyrics super well. Like I can ascertain most of them with my ear, but there are certainly other lines that like kind of go too fast or not necessarily easy to hear. But it's not a song that I thought to myself, I need to dig deep. I mean, obviously, I say obviously, but I assume a lot of people would think this, and I actually have a clip of Matt Thiessen confirming this. But I just assumed that the song it's basically on the theme of the whole thing being about the breakup with his fiance. Mm-hmm. That this song is specifically about like trying to move on and be alone for a while. And like I said, I have some stage banter from Thiessen saying exactly that's what the song is. But then there's all the stuff with the hospital and everything that I've never really known what is this about.
Yeah, I was going to say also I have an excerpt here from a Seattle Times interview where question, tell me about this line. Without you, I'm still whole. You and life remain beautiful. From your song, I Don't Need a Soul. Answer. A lot of times in relationships, we start to think we can't be complete without somebody in our lives. We start to rely on that other person as a part of our identity. When you separate the two, are you still complete? Yeah, your life isn't contingent on somebody else's.
Well, as long as we're on this subject, I should play this clip now. This was from an acoustic radio performance where you have Thiessen, we have both Matts, and you have Ethan playing guitar, not drums. I mean, maybe he played drums. I know we've seen this footage before. I'm trying to see if it says what radio station it is. It doesn't say it in here. It doesn't say it. I know we've seen this same. It's this like kind of stage room. The glass wall right there with the windows look right on into the street. So it almost looks kind of like a little club or a coffee house that maybe also serves as a radio station performance space. I don't know. We've seen something else performed here, and Thiessen's going to give a little explanation before they play this song in very badly compressed audio, and it's pretty much going to be the same thing you said, but let's just hear it straight from the Maddie's mouth.
And yeah, the song's a little bit different. It's about after recently going through a breakup. I realized that for most of my adolescent life, I kind of was always viewing my life as being the other half of some girl's life too, you know, like it's the way it works. You break up with somebody and then you're like, all right, you know, you let some time pass to heal, and then you find that it's somebody else or whatever. And this song I kind of wrote from the perspective of realizing that, you know, it'd be good to be in a position in life where I feel like I didn't need to have somebody else, where I was just okay enough with myself, which is who I am, and that's what completes me. And then after you kind of get yourself to that position, I think that's probably the best time to meet somebody else. So anyway, this song's called I Don't Need a Soul.
It sounds like Matt Thiessen is the girlfriend. Go listen to us talk about complex infrastructure and the female mind over on patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so basically he kind of said the same thing, but how he also gives the context of like since he was an adolescent. So pretty much since he liked girls, pretty much since high school.
Right.
He's implying here that he has never just spent time alone and not part of a couple. And that's funny. Because for me, this is something I wanted to talk about, the idea of like being okay with loneliness and solitude and two things not to get confused. Because my first relationship is sitting across the table from me, my first and only relationship. And we've hinted at this in other things. I think it was an early podcast where I was saying something and you're like, you don't want anyone to know I'm the only girl you dated. And I was like, no, it's fine. I don't care. The thing is, I did not ever have a girlfriend all throughout middle school, all throughout high school, throughout my early college years. And then I met Jessica very late in life, relatively speaking. I was like 23, 24.
You were 22, maybe just turned 23.
Hold on, what year was I born? So the point is, I just never had a girlfriend, and because I was 23 when we met. So because we are a Christian podcast and we certainly talk about that stuff enough, it has nothing to do with Christianity, and it has nothing to do with purity culture, any of that stuff. It has nothing to do with that. I had no tools, no capacity, no social grace or understanding to like talk to girls literally in my entire life. Unfortunately, there's a certain group of very bad men who have taken over what I kind of felt like then, called incels. Like, I wish I could say it was something like that, but it wasn't like that. I'm glad to say it wasn't something like that. But it was a case of like, I wanted a girlfriend, I wanted to be in a relationship, and I had no tools, capacity, understanding. I was filled with anxiety. I did not have the best. I had a hard time making friends most of my life, much less the girlfriend thing. Like, how do you climb? Like, it's like one giant chasm or mountain to climb just to make friends, and then you got to also get a girlfriend. Like, I had no idea how it would happen, and it never did. I just sat around waiting for it to happen. So I was completely used to the idea that I don't need a soul. Like, it was kind of forced on me. Unfortunately, incel people and incel culture has ruined it, and I can't just say this, but like the fact that it was involuntary that I was alone. I had to like make my do of it and get used to it. And then I started going to college, and I kind of loosened up, and I kind of like got a little better, but I kind of had to teach myself into my 20s how to like make friends and how to like do all that stuff. So then I met Jessica, and we were just friends, and eventually I was like, wait a second, I think she likes me, and I think I can ask her out. And I kind of just figured it out on my own, and it all just worked out that way. So I never had that issue of like thinking I need to learn to spend some time alone, because it was like a horrible, I don't need to harp on this much more, but sometimes it was awful, like being in my late teens, being in my early 20s, being 20 years old, and like not really knowing, like every time I had friends, it kind of happened on its own. I had no ability to like say I need to go out and make some friends. The friends I had kind of fell in my lap, right? They were all great friends when that happened. But if I was really lonely, like if I moved or something and was in a new place, I couldn't be like, well, gotta go out and make some friends somewhere. Had no idea how to do that. Like, it had to happen naturally through some social construct of a school, or like going to the same shows in a local scene and seeing the same people and over. Like, I couldn't just make friends wholesale cloth out of meeting new people. So it was tough, and I didn't enjoy it. But by the time Jessica and I got together, she was like, you don't really need me around all the time, right? Eventually, because I was kind of, you get what I'm saying, right? We've talked about this, because you like having people around. You had a few boyfriends, but it's less than that, and more like you liked having your parents around, and you like having your friends around, and you kind of do, and you don't like being lonely. You don't like.
Yeah, I'm like an introverted extrovert. It's
right.
Like I'm very, very shy, but I like having my people around that I, like and feel comfortable with and stuff. Yeah.
Right. Whereas, like, I, based on these roots of my life, could be like, well, I could spend the day alone. There's a bunch of stuff I need to work on. I need to catch up on. I need to watch some stuff, read some stuff, and I'll be fine being alone. However, recently Jessica went away overnight for a movie shoot, and it was the worst night of sleep of my life. I was like, especially I guess after a year now of the pandemic.
Right.
And like, we've spent time alone. Like, I've had to go on a trip, or you've had to go on a trip. It doesn't happen very often. We're almost always together.
Yeah, I think this is like the first time in 7 years or something like that.
Well, there was a time when we moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah, 7 years ago now.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
So that was the last time. So I don't know. I totally get the idea, and I know people in my life who I'm like, you just broke up with someone. Do you have to immediately already did you have them lined up before they broke up with them?
Right.
So it's like, I would like to see that person, those people, learn to be alone for a minute.
Yeah.
Learn to work on themselves. And being alone and not having a soul didn't necessarily make me a better person, because like it probably, like Matt Thiessen talks about here, like be alone in your solitude for a little bit and try to make yourself a better person, and then be in a better position to be with someone later. Didn't necessarily work for me, because I just got a little bit bitter. Right. Not being like, why am I unlovable?
I always took this line a little differently. The whole I don't need a soul. I took it as more like, she left and it's okay. She took his soul with her, and that's okay, because she and life are both still beautiful, and he's okay not having his soul because it belongs to her. It's more of just like a that sort of a poetic notion instead.
Maybe it's both. I mean, that could totally be both, right? Yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but when you say I don't need a soul, it means like Bart Simpson, like I don't need my soul in my body.
Yeah.
Or I don't need a soul. When you call someone a soul, like there's not a soul around. Just saying a soul means other people.
Yeah.
I don't need a soul, meaning I don't need other people around, which is how I just interpreted it for the last 20 minutes while I was rambling about my sad
Right.
self. But like, so it could absolutely be both.
I've read it both ways, and it's like this is a song that I kind of like go back and forth on, where it's like, oh, you have my soul and that's fine and I don't need it anymore, and also like, that's fine that you have it because I don't need anyone.
I think it's probably both.
Yeah.
And I think that's where,
because Matt Thiessen loves that sort of wordplay.
Yeah,
so.
when he has something like that literally means both.
Yeah.
And how I tried it when I see people who are upset that they learned that a Relient K song they thought was about mental health, and then they learn that Relient K is a Christian band, and they're like, I thought that song was about mental health, or it turns out it's about God, and I'll sometimes reply to them and I'll be like, it's about both.
Yeah.
It's literally, there's a handful of songs that absolutely are only about God, and some songs that are only about relationships with girls and humans and human beings, but there's some songs that are literally meant to be interpreted as both. That's what good poetry can be. That's something that poetry is able to be. Like, other forms of art have a hard time literally being two things at the same time. Like in a film, like in a movie, usually what you're showing, unless you're like a really artsy director, if it's a real art film and you're like cutting between two different scenes, at the same time, and you're saying that this is both those things, then it's hard to say that a scene is usually a scene. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Paintings can sometimes be two things, so they can be optical illusions. You know what I mean? Like, art can be two things at the same time. I don't believe in like necessarily a binary idea of art. If it can be more than one thing, if there is a simile, if there's an allegory and a metaphor lyrically in there, that's not like obvious. It's not just saying, it's not spelling it out for you, but it means both things.
Right. And I think that's something that is just so beautiful. And one of the things that I've always really been drawn to about Relient K is that Matt Thiessen in his songwriting just does such a good job with relating to you, and also, having all these fun, like, double meanings.
Right.
All this great, like, wordplay.
Sometimes you hear like a song by a popular artist, and they'll be like, yeah, this song is about the anger I felt when the Capitol, I'm just making one up right now. It's like, this song is about the anger I felt when I saw the Capitol being seized by the insurrectionists. But then you listen to the song and it's like about meeting some girl you like and going out to like a food truck or something. It's like, it seems like it's really surface level and not about that.
Right.
And you're like, what? And it's like, but that can sometimes happen artistically, you know what I mean? Like, it's stupid sometimes when mainstream artists might say that, but you can start from an emotional core and a feeling you had, and the song can be about that. Like Jackson Pollock paintings or something, or like, people who do that same kind of abstract style. Like, this painting is about my feelings when this happened to me. And then you look at it and it's just a bunch of splotches on a thing, on a canvas.
Right.
But that's what good art is. It's an expression of the artist at that moment. And then the artist, quote unquote, dies, and the person who sees it can find multiple meanings in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you ready to go through the lyrics now?
Yes. We didn't do that. I thought that's what we've been doing for the last hour.
Okay, I'm on Genius. I hope these are the right lyrics because, when we get to song meanings, there were two different entries for this song. There was I Don't Need a Soul was one, and then I Don't Need a Soul, and then in parentheses to hold was another.
Man, you stole all my little tidbits that I found on YouTube today. So I guess I don't need to play it, but I found a random video of someone uploading before the album came out, the summer before. This album came out in October of 2009, so the summer before that. This was a song they were playing early on, like as they were playing out,
right? Yeah,
preparing for the release of the album for months before. And when Thiessen introduced the song at one of those shows, and the beginning of this sentence is cut off, but I figured out what he meant from context. He says, this is called I Don't Need a Soul, or I Don't Need a Soul, parentheses, to hold. And then he says something along the lines of, but we're still working that out.
Oh,
And
okay,
so
yeah, that makes sense.
They thought this might have parentheses on it, like some old pop songs do, which is what 500 Days of Summer was their weird title with the parentheses around the word, the number 500. That was what they were calling to. They were calling to that like 80s pop thing of having parentheses in your title.
Right.
So they didn't end up going with it. But I guess since the song hit early, there's even a video where they're playing it months before the album came out and someone right up in the front row is singing along. So this must have been, and I don't remember this, but this must have been online early on.
Yeah, because the song meanings that says the I don't need a soul in parentheses to hold, that one, I think the first comment on it was something like, just heard this at the show I was at last night or something. Hope these are right. I'll update as like they get corrected or whatever.
Oh, you know what? That must be what it was. I just remembered how in the making, and I have a clip of this for later, but not this particular thing, in the making of Forget Not Slow Down featurette, there's a thing where Hoops talks about as they've been working on the album and they've been going out and playing shows, he went on YouTube and watched some videos of them playing the songs. I guess is like almost like gameplay footage.
Right, that's funny.
So that makes sense now that people were basically like actively combing YouTube for the new songs so they'd know them before their shows. That must have been what happened.
So verse 1. I listen to the sirens as they sing me back to sleep. I pray that no one's seriously hurt. That's something that I do.
Right.
It feels like everything is dying at the pivot point of me. I listen to the sirens tell me things could still be worse. Because if you close your eyes and listen close, you can hear that chapter close. And it's all rebound in better close. And you'll like the way this story goes.
So one note I have is not the first time I heard this song, because I think the first times I heard this song when the album was new, I didn't give it a lot of thought. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh, it's a song. And I literally didn't even comprehend that the whole thing was a breakup album. It wasn't until like a year or two before we started this podcast I started to learn about that and actually pay attention to the lyrics. But when I started really paying attention to the lyrics of this song about 2 years ago, I thought that if you close your eyes and listen close, you can hear the chapter close. I thought that was like a super morbid, mega dark lyric for Relient K, because I somehow thought the sound of the chapter closing meant death.
Right. I mean, and based on the lyrics that come, the lyrics that come before it, you could absolutely think that way.
But I don't think that that's what it is anymore.
Right.
But I guess because I still had the image, when I'm actually paying attention to the song, I still had the image of somewhere nearby his cabin where he's writing this album, there's sirens. And he's like, I hope no one's been hurt. And then I imagine someone's being taken to the hospital, especially because later on someone leaves the hospital.
And it's him.
It was him the whole time.
I mean, you certainly could read it that way. And there are multiple levels to these lyrics.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that. And
Something I've never been able to decipher was and it's all rebound in better clothes. Is that the official line?
I can we can pull up the official lyric booklet, but when it's a bit of a mixed metaphor, but a purpose, it seems to be, to me, right off the bat, a purposefully mixed metaphor, because he says you can hear the chapter close, putting to mind a book, and he says it's all rebound, and you bind books. Like if the binding of a book and the pages come loose, the book starts to fall apart. You need to have it rebound. In a classical sense, you bind a book in leather, right? Clothes are also made of leather.
Right.
So it's like the book has been rebound in better clothes, but it's a mixed metaphor, because is the chapter closing and the thing being rebound is him. He's being set up. He's got new shoes in his closet, like in the lining is silver. And it's like, he's got new clothes. He's got better clothes. He was wearing, I'm just making this up now, but he was wearing, stinky clothes for the last couple weeks because he's been so sad about what happened. with his relationship ending, but he's put on some new, better clothes. So he's rebound, like a rebound book. He's now looking better on the shelf. He's putting himself back together after what happened. He's the book and he's himself.
He's just gotten dumped, so now he's decided to shave off his facial hair that he grew for her, and he decided to ditch the glasses and get contacts and really show her what she's missing.
That's right. You take it. You realize that I'm the prize you let go. I'm still pulling up the trademark.net images to look at the official lyrics here. It's over on the shelf. I could go pull it down there, but it's so much easier when it's on the phone once you get to the website.
Chorus. 'Cause the sun still burns the shadows out, and there's nothing to complain about now. 'Cause if this was our destiny, I'd treasure the fact, and I'd give you what's left of me if I'd held back.
All right, so to confirm, I listen to the sirens to sing you back to sleep. I pray that no one is here. Because you close your eyes and listen close, you can hear the chapter close, and it's all rebound in better clothes, and you like the way this story goes, because the sun still burns the shadows out, and there's nothing to complain about now. Yeah, so that's what it is. I guess also from a rhyming point of view, he kind of had to mix the metaphor with like it's all rebound in better clothes, because you can't say it's all rebound with a better spine.
Right. And also this is almost a mini, like how I've said how this whole album is kind of like a rock opera. Like I view it as a rock opera in that it's the roller coaster that you go through after a breakup. This song is almost like a snapshot of a roller coaster that you go through, because we have in the lines here before him saying that, you know, he's closing the chapter, but now he's going to remake himself. And she's gonna like this story better. She's going to like this version of him better.
Yeah.
And now he's going more through the acceptance phase in the chorus, where he's saying that if this was our destiny, you know, I'd treasure, you know, our time together, and I would have given you anything that was left of me.
Right.
And I would have given you all of me, that sort of thing. If I had left anything back, I didn't mean to, that sort of thing. But I don't need a soul. No, I don't need a soul to hold. Without you, I'm still whole. You and life remain beautiful. You and life remain beautiful. So yeah, I think it's just like, it could be, I don't need anybody. I don't need a soul. Or, you know, I don't need my soul. It belongs to you.
It's also, from a realistic point of view, knowing that this is a true story, it's too soon to write a literal, like, I am healed now. It's too soon in the album. And it's too soon in his life to have written a real I am all healed now song. I think there's plenty of, and I absolutely can't think of any examples right now, but there's got to be plenty of examples in the history of popular music and in the sense of non-classical music. There's got to be plenty of examples of songs of like looking back at a relationship that was lost and realizing you were both better for it. Not like a bitter one, not saying like, you know, why did I ever get with you kind of song, but a song about looking back at a breakup and having had that time to heal and actually being completely healed. This is literally too soon in his life to have actually like fully healed and fully comprehend. He's saying here, I realize now I need to spend some time alone, but he hasn't spent that time alone yet chronologically in this song. He can speculatively say, I'm becoming better because I'm spending time alone. But this song is literally written while that's happening, so it can't literally come from almost like if he ever wrote, and maybe there's a song on air for free, not Collapsible Lung, but maybe there's a song on air for free that could be a sequel to this theme. I don't know.
There absolutely is. There like in Man, it definitely feels like that is a follow up to this album, where we get some semblance of seeing that he's healed.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think this is literally a healing song, but it's not a healed song, if that makes sense. Like, the wound is still there, but it's all patched. Like, this is a song about all the bandages being on a wound. And you can think about how it's going to be healed soon. But in a real life sense and in the narrative of this album, the wound is still open underneath those bandages.
Departing from the hospital, ill news shows on your face too well. You're trying not to cough at all, it hurts. All options are exhausted. All your numbered days are numbered small. I miss you now, I love you, and I know things could still be worse. This line in here, or this verse, it has a lot of people speculating and spreading misinformation across song meetings.
Okay.
Lots of different people are chiming in with their like, this is about his dad who died of cancer, but I don't believe his dad has passed away.
No, his dad's on the album.
Yeah.
His dad sings the Savannah pre-gap track, the Sahara pre-gap track.
Yeah, other people speculate it's his uncle who passed away. Other people think that his girlfriend got sick. It's like everybody is taking this particular part very literally and attributing it to
things that they think they know or they think they figured out.
Right.
Well, if it's the uncle, I mean, people have more than one uncles. People can have one uncle or they can have more than one uncle. If it's the uncle from the album.
No uncle.
Or no uncle. But I know that his uncle who did the art for this album has an Instagram page. I don't really know if he's alive or dead, but I just, you know what I mean? I don't know who started the Instagram. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
I had to figure it out.
That's a good point.
So weird. Like who says they know these things? Like, did they just hear it or are they just assuming it? Like, for instance, the first time I heard this album, and I've talked about this on other Forget Not Slow Down episodes, but the first time I heard the title of this album, based off of what very little I thought I knew about Relient K's history, I was like, oh, this song must be about how this album name must be about how they're not on a major label anymore.
Right.
And that's completely wrong.
Right.
But if I'm the first on song meetings and I write that in, and then some people read it and they're like, oh, okay, they were going to forget and not slow down and they're going to go back to an independent record label. No, that's not true. But if I got a bunch of people to believe that early on, then people would go around spouting that.
Yeah. And we know what the song's about because we have two different interviews.
Well, an interview and a stage banter. Now, the hospital thing did confuse me a little. I kind of leaned towards assuming that it's some literal Thiessen stuff, like, you know, talking to, it's same kind of caliber as talking to his sister late one night with a 17 magazine, how that's probably literally a true story and he just wrote it down as a song. I kind of assumed, since it's about her, it's about his ex-fiance, that maybe there was a thing where she had an accident or something that we don't know, because as far as we have ever seen, it's never been discussed. And he goes to pick her up at the hospital for some reason that really has nothing to do. It's not that the hospital has anything to do with why they broke up, but it's just sort of a flavor of narrative. It just kind of paints a mysterious or an interesting picture. It's just something that kind of flavors the song in a slightly different way. It gives you a different image in your mind as opposed to the relatively less tangible lyrics of the rest of the song. But I wouldn't go on song meetings necessarily and say, this is what I think it is, or this is what it is because this is what I think it is, because I literally have no idea.
Right.
I have no idea who he's talking about. And it's entirely possible that this could be a lyrical switch up and that maybe it has nothing to do. Like, is this something from the past, like before they broke up, or is this something like, I mean, I believe fully that the opening of the song is him in the cabin of writing this album. Mm-hmm. And that this is like some of the most up-to-date literal Thiessen, where he's singing about being in the cabin where he wrote this album. So then that also kind of makes me think, like, well, wouldn't the extra little story at the end of the song also be up-to-date like the beginning of the song was? Like, would this be more recent?
He could also be reflecting because that's something that he did in like Savannah, where we
Right.
kind of bounce around a little bit with where we are in time. Like he's just sort of reminiscing as he sits there and just sort of writing down a stream of consciousness. sort
And
of thing.
and memories are not collated like that. You know what I mean? Like memories are a mishmash.
Yeah.
Your brain does not. You try to file things and collate them in your mind, but that's not how it works. Like you think of your house as a child and you think of like the day you moved out, but then in that house is a million memories across, like if you lived there for 20 30 years, all these memories completely out of time, people come in and out of your life. You know what I mean? Like if you think about a smell, if you think about geography, if you think about a person, you can jump all around time, especially the way that like if someone stays in your life, your mind tends to like age them up. So I might think of my sister in a memory when she was 6, but in my mind, I sort of see her face now. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Or when I even think of you when I met you 12 years ago, and I think of you 12 years ago, I close my eyes, I see your face now, but your face wasn't the same 12 years ago. My face wasn't the same 12 years ago.
We met like 15 years ago now. So I think that he literally is sitting there or laying there and he hears these sirens and it brings up this thought of how, oh, these sirens, it's like a metaphor for the death of my relationship. And then he, you know, sort of ponders on that for a while. And then his mindset sort of switches over to maybe recalling a time when he was at the hospital with someone.
Right.
And then it drifts back to more of the metaphorical.
Well, that was helpful because, like I said, I never really gave much thought to the hospital stuff in this song. So then I guess we'll take our break and
We'll be right back.
we'll be right back.
If you enjoy Sadie Hawkins Pod, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and interact with the show by calling our voicemail line 402-95-SADIE.
You can send an email to sadiehawkinspod@gmail.com and visit our Instagram and Twitter, which are both at sadiehawkinspod.
You can also visit sadiehawkinspod.com for the link to our TeePublic store for shirts, mugs, and stickers, including 2 brand new designs. Following in the history of all of Relient K's logo parody merch, we have a Chick-fil-A parody design.
And to prove to everyone that we are in fact the most punk rock podcast, we have a new Black Flag logo parody. You know, something that's original and that we could really call our own for once.
We also want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/SadieHawkinspod. Brady, David, Tucker, This Might Be a Podcast, Owen, Jimmy Eat Pod, Roxanne, Samantha, Helen, Michael, Connor, and Joel.
You can sign up at our Patreon for bonus episodes, which include us reviewing the songs from KS for Karaoke and reading through the Complex Infrastructure book.
Ooh.
Treat yourself right in 2021 with Sadie Hawkins Pod, the door to a happy, healthy life.
So you like Relient K, do you? Well, what about They Might Be Giants? My name is Greg Simpson, and I host a They Might Be Giants fan podcast, and it's called This Might Be a Podcast. This Might Be a Podcast is a song-by-song podcast featuring a different guest every episode from normal fans like you and I, but also I've had guests such as John Darnielle of the Mountain Goats, Justin McElroy of My Brother and Me, Hutch Harris of the Thermals, Mike Park of Asian Man Records, Franz Nikolai of The Hold Steady, and Danny Weinkoff and Marty Beller of They Might Be Giants, and past drummers Dan Hickey and Brian Doherty. Search for Punk News or This Might Be a Podcast on any podcast platform and you will find us. This Might Be a Podcast, brought to you by punknews.org.
Since I already sort of touched on the essence of what you find on both song meanings, I'm going to skip ahead to TikTok, and there are quite a few TikToks this week. We have 10 TikToks.
Oh my gosh.
2 of them have to do with woodworking. There's this one.
A Naruto cosplay thing. So Tipsy_pig is in Naruto cosplay, including the whiskers on the whisker makeup on the face, and they're just lip syncing the song very energetically.
Yeah. And then there's a follow up to that, I guess.
Oh, this is a match. One of those. I don't remember what you call it. Stemler talked about it on our podcast. Yeah, where they like you match up your video to their video. This is Squishy SHMU, Squishy Shmoo,
who's dressed up like a different Naruto.
Yeah.
Kiba, maybe? Kiba?
Dressed up like a different Naruto. Which female Naruto are you?
Exactly.
Okay, so this one is by JVPVTVR, and this person is sitting in their car with a green Dunkin' Donuts drink in their hand. Right? It's like...
It's a matcha latte.
Is it a matcha latte?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're gonna talk to us while I Don't Need a Soul is playing in the background. Here you go, Jess. I took the phone to figure out what was going on, and now we'll listen.
About myself that I realized like a couple years ago. When I was 13, when I was in the 7th grade, my favorite band of all fucking time was Relient K, which is a Christian pop punk band. And that's not surprising for a 13-year-old, except for the fact that I've been an atheist for my entire life, and nobody in my family is at all religious in any manner. Can anyone else relate to that? Because I know their entire discography, and it's, I don't know how to explain that I am not and have never been Christian, except my top band on Spotify for like 5 years straight was a Christian pop punk band.
So this comes up a lot on Twitter with all my stalking of everyone who talks about Relient K on Twitter. And I don't know. I want to just put it as nicely as possible without seeming like I'm judging anybody, but there's nothing weird about that. You know what I mean? Like, they're a band.
Yeah.
And like, so many people I see on Twitter get upset when they're like, what? Relient K was a Christian band the whole time? And I've seen plenty of tweets, even from like looking at MXPX tweets on Twitter, where people, you know, very much think of the entire Christian alternative record industry as very, and we kind of talked about this with Semler, but like how they think of it as kind of deceptive and entrapment, like write all this cool music, but actually have this like propaganda, this like Christian propaganda thing, like we're trying to convert you. And that absolutely, there absolutely is a section, a relatively large majority of Christian rock that is that way. Like the Christian festivals and stuff, and the certain labels and the certain kind of bands where the scene is like pushed, like those bands have to be literal evangelicals. I don't mean evangelicals in the modern sense of like right wing or whatever. I mean like evangelizing, like in the middle of your punk rock set, doing a altar call and praying and stuff. Sure, bands are like that, but especially when you think of Relient K at the time when they had a very confusing username, so I can't repeat it. But when this TikToker would have been a Relient K fan and had been an atheist all their life, like there'd be no reason for them to think that's weird, because Relient K was just a band. Yeah. Relient K started out as a ministry type band, but they became just a band. And so it's like...
Yeah, when I saw them in 2005, they were touring with Good Charlotte and Simple Plan. They were not stopping like the OC Supertones do to do a little like ministry in the middle.
Right.
At that point.
Like, and I know, so I guess it's because it's another planet. The Christian music world is another planet that people don't really understand if they had no concept of it. And if their weird little gateway to it is Relient K or MXPX or something like that, or even Five Iron Frenzy, it's like nothing to be worried about. Like, you can listen to hip hop music and I have no idea what the actual like social and political viewpoints of hip hop artists are, right? Like if I listen to NWA or something, I don't actually understand those points of view. I can't, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not a big deal, I don't think,
No.
for Relient K to be your favorite band and be an atheist. It's perfectly fine. Yeah. And like I said, I just see this all the time, and I don't know how to, like, reply. And so I don't really reply to people because I don't want to sound weird about it.
Right.
But it's like an accepting thing, especially considering that it's a known fact right now that and I'm not just talking about Semler, like, she's kind of like the face of it from, with her album and her whole message statement and stuff. But the fact that Relient K has an enormous gay and queer and LGBT fan base now, many of them Christians or former Christians or just actually like Gen Zers who are LGBTQ and discover Relient K and love Relient K. Like, I think this is a band that everyone can just enjoy. And if you don't like the couple of songs that are definitively, without question, only religious, there's a couple of songs where it's that and it's something else, and you can assume it's something else, not religious, but you can just ignore the other. Or, like, you know, if I listen to the Supertones, I actually don't agree with all of their philosophy, their hard philosophy in that. Like I said, if I listen to hip hop, or if I listen to really offensive punk, not just the type of pop punk we think about in the 2000s where girls are B-words and it's all their fault, but I'm talking about like the Queers or like the Dwarves or NoFX, where they have actually offensive lyrics, like purposely trying to get you offended. Like, I don't actually think about or believe the things that they might sing in their most offensive songs, but I might still enjoy their music.
Now, if they're like, hey, how did I get into this band when they're Christian? I mean, the answer to that is, I don't know. They also probably just have shown up on, like, that sort of not Christian but non-offensive radio.
Right.
That is totally a thing.
Yeah. They were a Capitol Records band. They were...
Sorry, next up.
Yeah, we were on that enough. So this is... Can you turn this down?
Sorry.
Because it's just lip syncing. So this is SYKO Penguin. Psycho Penguin. But he's not dressed like a penguin.
He's in a onesie.
He's in a onesie that's like maybe some sort of anime character or a Pokemon or something. Because he's got a Detective Pikachu poster on his wall, which is the only thing I can really make out. He's got a beard, he's got glasses, and he's just really deeply lip syncing to these lyrics.
Sorry, I accidentally clicked on a hashtag.
Modern problems.
Yeah, he's doing some, like, very interpretive type dance moves there. Now we've got Sad Boy says, if you're going to cry over people that never deserved you, people that make you feel like you aren't enough, then you might as well cry over this too. And then he drops a jug of milk and just wastes a whole bunch of milk. This guy, he looks so 2005. Like, he's wearing a polo shirt and like a kind of off to the side hat and Converse. There's a dog training video. There's a girl in maybe a schoolgirl uniform, maybe a cosplay. I'm not really sure.
Ashley Glitta with one T.
Just lip syncing along, doing a little dance.
Nice.
Now, I have a punk news review, and I'm not sure if we've done this one before, but if not...
It's Carl Up and Die, right?
It is. But
we've talked a lot about Carl Up and Die.
Yeah.
And we thought his name was Curl Up and Die until Greg from This Might Be a Podcast corrected us.
like, hey, isn't it Carl? And we're like, oh, yeah. So, this, just for a refresher, here's Carl Up and Die's Forget and Not Slow Down
like
review.
Weird contradictory takes in most of the reviews that we've read of his, like says why can't Relient K be one way, and then talks about and then complains that they are that way later in the same article.
So he gave this album 2.5 stars out of 5. Evolution does not always bring positive changes, no matter what Charles Darwin taught the world.
Yes, we did read this. We read this. Ooh, so edgy. They're a Christian band, and you're talking about evolution. I'm so hot under the collar having you mention that completely accurate thing about evolution.
The new Relient K album is
as also
proof.
A Christian who believes in Jesus and can also believe in evolution. What? That's impossible.
These Christian kids, who maybe don't even believe in Darwin's theory, keep on evolving their sound with such mediocre results that one could easily believe this is not the same band. Just ridiculous. I don't know. Just, like, the opening paragraph does not bode well. All right, well, if you remember it, then I will not refresh us anymore. Then we have a review from Christianity Today.
Charles Darwin said that...
Forget Not Slow Down. October 6, 2009, Andrea Bailey Whitlitz. Sounds like Jimmy Eat World, acceptance, something corporate. At a glance, pop punk poster children relocate to rock. Over the span of a decade and 8 records, the Grammy-nominated band Relient K has made some mistakes. They've encountered the dark side of life and love, and like most of us, are haunted by a handful of regrets. But rather than wallow in them, Matt Thiessen and friends moved on, and they're inviting us to forget and not slow down along with them. Always the smart, succinct songwriter, Thiessen is in his element here, combining upbeat optimism with frank, cathartic relationship postmortems, and a few nods to God. He's penned 15 tracks that celebrate future possibilities. I'd rather forget and not slow down than gather regret for the things I can't change now, he insists on catchy title track. A reminder of Paul's admission to forget what is behind and strain towards what is ahead. Phil 3:13. Like, you just go, okay. In the same song, he asks God to resurrect the saint from within the wretch, pour over me and wash my hands of it. The rocking Sahara could also be a desperate plea for deliverance, trying to ignite some sort of passion from inside to overcome this feeling of desertion. So I'll ask one thing of you: don't ever turn me loose, even when I turn my back. And later, but I'm not alone, I'll be all right. Just take these bones and breathe them back to life. Other songs are equal parts carefree and nostalgic, featuring overdue goodbyes. Oh, that was it. Nice. Oh, because it's an article preview. I have to be a subscriber to Christianity Today to hear any more, apparently. Well... Not signing up today.
Not today. Not Christianity Today.
And not today, Satan. This is a super long blog post from johnbook.wordpress.com, and it's titled Dear Matt Thiessen, and then in parentheses of Relient K. I am not your core audience. I am probably not the guy you're targeting when making an album. I'm 36. I have a wife and a kid, and I live in England.
What year was this? Maybe back then, but now you'd be exactly who you'd be targeting. Is there a date?
There is not a date. The most recent, I'm sorry, not the most recent. The oldest comment is from February 18th, 2010.
Okay, well...
Oh, here we go. January 25th, 2010.
Okay, because now, all the internet is people in their 30s talking about pop punk bands from the early 2000s. So literally, you would have been exactly Matt Thiessen's target audience if you were writing this today. So, okay.
Most people think of Relient K as a band for teenagers. I was trying to do the math on his age. Sorry. Semi-angsty Christian kids. People like that. And perhaps you started out that way. You were, after all, only in high school when your band first started performing, and your first sort of breakthrough album featured songs about cell phones and mood rings. Is that their first sort of breakthrough album?
No. I mean, in a way.
Two lefts?
It's all relative.
Yeah.
Everyone, especially like when people are like, I know every Relient K song. I know all Relient K's. So Relient K songs is like, oh, so you know the first three? No. It's like, I know and I know Five Score.
Right.
No, I don't know, because I'm trying so hard, like Samuel L. Jackson at the end of Pulp Fiction. I'm trying so hard not to be an actually know-it-all D-bag anymore about all the things that I love the most.
Should I stop doing the reviews then, Danny?
No, it's fine. But the thing is, like, I've been listening to Relient K from the first album. So to me, I'm like, well, shouldn't everyone be listening to them from the first album? And like, I know you only started listening to them from but then you bought the second album first.
No, I heard Anatomy first, and Two Lefts was already out at that time. And so I went back, bought their first album.
Oh, you bought their first album?
Yeah, and then it was like only a very short period of time after I discovered them that came out.
Okay. So I don't know. I don't think you can definitively say what's what, especially because like we got confused early on in this podcast and thought that Five Score was their biggest selling album, but it was actually just their fastest charting album. So like, what's the metric for success? Five Score is their fastest charting album, but it's not necessarily their biggest selling album. So does that mean Five Score made a bigger impact for them as a band on the mainstream? Or is it the album that more people have in their house? If the more people have it in their house, is it just the choir, like literally preaching to the choir that have it in the house? Who knows? I don't know.
Teenager stuff. But I hadn't heard you at that point, aside from one track on a 5-minute walk sampler. Then I went back to being a high school teacher, and dang if my kids didn't love them some Relient K. I'm a music junkie, and I like using music to connect and relate. So one year, just before going on a trip with some students to New York City, I bought your newest album. It was on sale. I figured I'd like it some and be able to make some connections with some of the kids through that. The album was the 5 Score and 7 Years Ago album. It was pretty good. I digested small bits of it on the plane ride and on the subways. Then, while exploring the Natural History Museum by myself, all the kids had scattered throughout the building, I decided to finish off the album. And in this one hall where the fake Easter Island statue is, like the one in Night at the Museum, Deathbed came on.
So many particular details.
Clocking in at 11 minutes, the song is a first-person account of a man's story as he lies on his deathbed and
now,
encounters
is this a
Jesus.
letter to Relient K? Because Relient K knows what the song Deathbed is.
It is a letter to Matt Thiessen, and it is amazingly musically, lyrically, emotionally. Your vocal performance on that song is powerful, and the instrumentation complements each section beautifully. I was hooked. Next came the Christmas album, which fights Sufjan Stevens every Christmas for prominence in my CD player. It's so good, and I celebrate the day gets me every time I hear it. It's the one song I continue to listen to throughout the year. So wow, I thought, I kind of like these, it's the opposite of me, I just always skip past I celebrate the day. So wow, I thought, I kind of like these Relient K guys, so I went back, got the aforementioned record with mood rings on it, and well, it's okay. Clearly you've grown in many ways. Then I bought, again, on sale, the cleverly named collection, The Bird and the B-Sides, including the Nashville Tennis EP. Listen to it a few times and put it on the
I feel
shelf.
like I could edit this down. I'm not like the best. I'm not like the best writer, but like I feel like I could have made some of these moments concise. Also, this just reminds me of a Blink-155 thing, where one day Josiah was like, I can't take people DMing me their story about how they discovered Blink-182 anymore because it's always the same. I went to the mall and my mom didn't want me to buy the CD, and that's like everybody's story about Blink-182. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't need to know how you went to this store to buy Bird and the B-Sides and that store to buy. I get it. They're outside of your normal purview and you loved it. That's wonderful. Cut this down. Move on. Next part of the story.
So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Well, Matt, you ask, what of our new album? I'm confused. Is his name also Matt? Because I thought he was writing to Matt. So I'm not sure. Well, Matt, you ask, what of our new album? What if Forgot and Not Slow Down? The album of tracks you wrote while isolated in some cabin somewhere during the period of time after a broken engagement.
Matt is saying, what do you think of our new album? That was the narrative. That was like the point of view. He switched it like as if Matt Thiessen is asking him, so what's your name from this blog? What do you think of our new album?
Well, did I mention I live in England? New music of the Christian-related variety isn't always easy to come by, and when it is, it's expensive. So I asked for the CD for Christmas. Could have downloaded.
Isn't he 35?
But it was, well, he's a teacher. Could have downloaded, but with some bands, I like the hard copy. And our Christmas presents don't come till mid-January, by which point the Birds album.
No, we don't need all these details. By the way, I do want to say I understand the irony of me saying this guy needs to edit this down a little bit. Coming from me, the guy who constantly repeats the things he just said. I am always repeating the things I've just said, but I'm the one telling him he needs to cut this down. I understand that that's ironic.
I'm fast forwarding again a little bit. Granted, it takes a while to get going. As you know, since you recorded the album, there are only 10 songs here.
Is this going to end in some horrible tragedy? Like, I feel like this can only be gearing up towards family members died from this and your album helped me.
Family members died from Forget Not Slow Down.
Family members died from my constantly telling them about what stores I bought Relient K CDs at.
And Forget Not Slow Down got him through it. Gotcha. The extra 5 belong mostly to outros, usually slowing down the previous song.
Matt Thiessen knows this.
Theme. And none of these are stinkers. No fillers. This is a lean album. That being said, most of the strongest tunes are in the latter half. The first 2 songs are very good, but not great. The title track and I Don't Need a Soul, both fitting nicely into your pop-punk repertoire. I'm not sure if you meant the double entendre in the later title, but it had never occurred to me that there are 2 possible meanings to that phrase until I heard this song.
Which song?
I Don't Need a Soul.
Oh, okay.
This song, yeah.
Is it the same 2 meanings we were talking about?
Yes. I don't know. He doesn't
gun.
expand on that. I'm assuming he means the same 2 that we do. I'm fast forwarding a little bit more. Matt, I'm not entirely sure who this album is for besides yourself. Maybe for other jilted lovers trying to come to terms. Almost nothing in it applies to my life as it is right now.
Okay.
But still, you've gotten under my skin with a work of heart and a work of art, exploring the suffering you've experienced over this past year. It ends with a note of hard-earned hope. Thank you. My thoughts are with you. Thanks for sharing your pain and your journey with us.
What? All right. He is a very verbose way of saying it was a pretty good album. I wasn't expecting it to be nice, but it was. You know, it doesn't. Whatever. I don't want to nitpick what I already felt like a nitpicky thing in the first place. But it's like this doesn't. The way he said, "Who's this album for?" Anyone who enjoys it. Like that's not how art works. I don't like that kind of point of view on any. I'm not just ripping into this guy, but I don't like that point of view for anyone to just necessarily say, "Who is this for?" Except maybe in like the context of movies, where like a movie kind of rides the line between being too horrific for kids, but then like tonally being for kids. Like that's like the example where I understand when you say who's this for. When it comes to an album, like it's not just for him, it's for a lot of people. And like I said, I've never experienced the kind of things he's talking about in here necessarily. Like my breaking up with Jessica for a while does not compare at all in terms of like time and suffering to the thing that he's explaining on this album, but I still get something out of it. And
I'm sorry, who broke up with who?
Did I say that I broke up with you? I didn't mean to say that. You broke up with me.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I love you.
I just don't like the criticism of who is this album for. That doesn't make any sense. And you know what?
Because usually that's a statement that you reserve for something truly outlandish. Like, you can look at Eraserhead by David Lynch and be like, who is this for? And like, there's a lot of people out there that it's for. But I can understand when someone's like, who enjoys this? You know, that makes sense. But like, a really good album, and like, let's just pretend like we're not even Relient K fans, just like outside people who like maybe like pop punk and hear it and we're like, we go, oh yeah, this is a pretty good album, you know, and maybe revisit it every now and then. It's not like some outlandish thing. It's something you can listen to in the car with your mom.
And he also seems to imply that like you need to be going through something similar to get something out of this album, which is nonsense. When I'm a kid and I'm watching TV shows and movies, when I'm listening to Dookie by Green Day, I literally don't understand most of the experiences he's talking about. When I listen to She, where he's talking about like his girlfriend from an attempted feminist point of view, like, I don't understand that. I was 12 years old. I have no concept for that. When he's singing like Basket Case about going, or he's singing Longview about living on your own for the first time and being kind of like scared and like you have nothing to do and you got no money, it's the 90s, and you sit around and you masturbate, right? Like, I didn't actually understand that. But so you don't need to understand art to approach it. Like, that's not a good take. And it just feels like word count stuff. Like, I really feel bad ripping into this thing. It's just like, and so many people I hear about personally since we started this podcast who've talked about how they DM us and stuff, and they say, I love Forget Not Slow Down. It got me through a really hard time in my life. And then they might not describe my fiance broke up with me. They might have something completely other. Loss is a universal concept, and there's 25 quadrillion ways that loss can occur in your life, through romance or through many other things. And this album is about loss, so it can speak to literally any single person on planet Earth is who this album is for. Right.
Yeah, and not to rip into that writer, that reviewer, because everybody is entitled to their own opinions, and also we didn't read the whole thing through.
Right.
You know, I just kind of skimmed and then just kind of was looking for the keywords there. So finally I'm
pouring some water.
Finally, I have a review from diamondandtherock.wordpress.com, and I'm just going to read the standout track section about I Don't Need a Soul. So they said, like the agreeable and optimistic opener, I Don't Need a Soul follows up with a lighthearted and happy song that somehow manages to sneak in profound sentiment at the same time. The compositional emphasis on piano is clear right from the start, as Thiessen provides a suitably pleasant background to lighter guitar riffs from Matt Hoops and John Schneck. Ethan Luck takes advantage of his chance to pound away on the drums, providing the appropriate counterpart to Thiessen's calmer piano and vocals. And despite the seemingly anti-Christian lyrics, Thiessen explores the uplifting idea that heartbreak isn't where life ends, and an idea inspired by his time of reflection after he and his fiancée broke up that is evidenced by each catchy chorus. I don't need a soul, no, I don't need a soul to hold. Without you, I'm still whole, you and life remain beautiful.
What's our runtime so far?
We're at around an hour and a half.
Okay, well, then we might do a thing that we've never done on this show, which is do all the covers behind the paywall.
Oh.
This is a thing that lots of other podcasts do, music podcasts, and this will be a first time for us because we went so long, and I do have a lot of covers, so why stretch this out any longer than it has to be?
Do you have any, favorite things to throw out
now?
I'll
just put out some of the best stuff. Real quick, though, here is a clip from the making of Forget Not Slow Down of Ethan talking about this song and how it was being received when they were playing it live while they were still working on the album.
Oh, nice.
One of the songs called Part of It we've been playing, it's a lot faster than the other one, and so I think a lot of people just kind of go crazy right away just because it's up-tempo and stuff. And then the other one is a song called I Don't Need a Soul. And that one's it's not slow, but it's slower than the other one. And so I think that's kind of the song where people kind of they're into it, but they're more paying attention. They're like, what was he saying and stuff. So it's kind of funny.
I think they're going over well. It's sometimes hard to tell because people just kind of sit back and watch what you're doing and just kind of try to take it in, I guess. But afterwards, it seems like most people that are at the shows are enjoying what they're hearing, which is good because I have fun playing them. So
And that was Hoops in the second half there, talking about going out and playing before the album came out with all these new songs. So there's that. Then I already talked about Matt Thiessen with that little explanation, what the song's about, and then also the parenthetical that could have been on the title but ended up not being on the title. This is also on the live album.
Right.
If you remember, this is on the 2009 section of the live album. So let's just hear a little bit of that. Because how can we have a regular episode without actually hearing live album stuff? Here's a commercial that's playing. 4, 3, 2, 1, skip ad. There we go.
Anyway, we're gonna play another new song. This one's called I Don't Need a Soul. Listen to the sirens as they sing me back to sleep.
So it's nice to hear Matt Thiessen's voice still pretty much in that 2009 mode and not in the post-collapsible long Air for Free mode.
All options are exhausted. All your numbered days are numbered small. I miss you now, I loved you. And I know things will still be worse. But if you close your eyes and listen close, you can't hear that chapter close. Sorry.
So it's funny that Ethan described. I mean, you're hearing Matt like he's almost breathless on some of these parts. It's funny that Ethan describes the song as not slow, but slower than part of it, because I also have footage on here that's like them totally just rocking the F out to this song, like they're up there, like they're Fugazi up there, like they're just like totally like slamming up and down. It's, so this seemed to be a song that they really loved playing. There's definitely some 2016 footage with Switchfoot and stuff. We're running out. We're so late in the episode. I don't know. Did you want to talk about that vlog that I found of that lady in Vancouver?
Yeah.
So there's a number of videos, and you might hear some of these behind the paywall at patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod.
We're pushing it so hard this episode.
I know.
How did that happen?
Because we got all those Eve 6 listeners and all those Wendy's listeners, and we need to push it to them.
That's right.
So there's a lot of like fan things where it's like multiple lip syncing full music videos. There's an FMV for the British show Skins, not the American version, but the British version.
Yeah.
There's a Vampire Diaries FMV.
Nice.
And then I found multiple vlogs that use this as the background music. I found this one guy who was giving like a testimony about how, he loves Christ, but music is second in his life to Christ. And I found like a lady's video where I don't even know what she was talking about. She was just talking about how her life is going, talking about all kinds of stuff for like 13 minutes. So I was like, nothing really here to play. Compilations of like people's trips, and like one person took all their 2015 photos and edited their favorites into a little music video, like on their phone, like you do with iMovie. But Jessica heard most of this with me. This is on YouTube by uploader Megan Allen, Megan Allen, Megan Allen. 3 years ago, with only 46 views, uploaded a 14-minute video about their trip to Vancouver to see Relient K and Switchfoot, and they were right up in the front row. Welcome to another, it says, Meg's Vlogs.
Just casually hanging out at the ferry. Where are we going, Sonia? Nowhere special.
A little trip to Vancouver to see Switchfoot and Relient K.
So Jessica was really excited to see this because she's like, this is so me, except they're Canadian.
It is snowy.
Like you knew.
It's so snowy in the background.
So we're going to the concert. We're drinking Starbucks. I've had 3 hours of sleep. Well, kind of 6 because of sleeping at work too, but.
What did she say?
Technically 6
And
because
maybe
of sleeping at work.
Oh.
Amazing.
Just today. So we're gonna go to Vancouver. It's gonna be super fun, and I can't wait.
We're going to Beard Papa's and shawarma.
Sonia bought tickets for us too.
Do you want to go to Beard Papa's and see Relient K and Switchfoot?
Hell yeah.
Okay, we're in our room. I'm standing at the door, and there's my bed. Literally, like the width of my body is the bed. Cute little room, though. We got 2 beds. Yay! Sonia wanted us to share a queen. No, thank you. I don't sleep good. Anyway, we do have a room with a view. Look at it. Ooh.
It's a nice
Pretty
view.
nice, eh?
Pretty nice, eh?
Yeah, we're just gonna hang out for a few minutes and bugs that are meant for concerts. I'm so dumb. I'm wearing my new shirt because I spilled guacamole on my other shirt.
So now they're at the concert. I fast forwarded, and it's a seated venue. It's a fully seated venue.
Here we go!
They're excited about the house
Are you
music.
singing it too?
Hell yeah, who wouldn't be?
Wow, she's got the eyes.
Savage Garden is neither savage nor a garden.
It's like a music video.
So here's where Relient K comes out, and they're right up front. And they're excited. So now and then they're going to play a couple of Relient K songs. They're going to play some Deathbed.
Are they gonna play I Don't Need a Soul?
I don't think so. This just came up.
Oh.
This is just a thing that YouTube threw at me. Maybe they play I Don't Need a Soul in it. And then they've captured some Switchfoot footage, and let's hear what they thought of the concert.
It's the morning after the concert. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't great. Right? No opinion? It was fantastic.
I paused when they.
Well, at least her friend liked it.
Yeah, no, she was joking, right?
I don't know.
I think she was joking.
Is that some of that good old Canadian humor?
Yeah, where you say the opposite of what you actually think. So then let's real quick look at. Oh, you know what? There's more of. There's way more of. There was how do I say this? Collab or collab? How do you want me to say it? Collab. There was one of those animated AMV collab projects where not only do you find the final animated music video. Oh, it's not an AMV because it's not clips from an anime, but it's an FMV that's fully animated. So not only do you find the final animated music video of the Warrior Cats set to I Don't Need a Soul, but you find every individual animator's upload, like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Wow. Like they didn't just send like them all to I don't know, a Google Drive or something.
I have never heard of this Warrior Cats thing before this podcast.
So many Relient K fans are Warrior Cat fans. And the thing is, I was watching these animated images, like people drawing, I guess, scenes from the Warrior Cat books, which are like real life cats, but like it's like a fantasy warrior action thing, but they're just like real life cats in the wild or whatever, in a suburb or something. Sure. And like so many of them are like dead and bleeding and fighting, and I'm like, I don't want to I don't want to read a bunch of cats killing each other. So there's that, but where is the next thing I was going to find? So we'll play this cover by an artist that we've heard before. And this is Robin S. with her acoustic cover.
I listen to the sirens as they sing me back to sleep. I pray that no everything is dying at the pivot point of me. I listen to the sirens tell me things could still be worse. 'Cause if you close your eyes and listen close, you can hear the chapter close, and it's all rebound in better clothes. And you like the way this story goes. The sun still burns, the shadows out, and there's nothing to complain about now. 'Cause if this was our destiny, I'd treasure the fact, and I'd give you what's left of me if I'd held back. But I don't need a soul. No, I don't need a soul to hold.
Very nice. Love
Yeah.
that.
It's really nice. And I can't remember what Robin S.'s previous song turned up on this show, but I do remember that. There's a Piano Dreamers. There is a Nightcore. We'll go over all of these behind the paywall. I'll end with this one here. Real quick, there's an official, well, not official, because there actually is an official Relient K karaoke CD. And I don't mean K's for karaoke. I mean the Goaty Hook 4-track, like from the first 3 albums, karaoke CD.
Right.
But like an actual karaoke company did I Don't Need a Soul in a compilation from like 2010.
Oh, wow.
So for like an official karaoke machine, you can get I Don't Need a Soul. It's uploaded to YouTube a couple of times. And here's like the reasonable upload of it. It's guitar.
I feel like it's like I'm a child in the 90s and there's like a Saturday morning like sitcom coming on. Like
I just want to hear when it kind of slows down with that that beat. It's cool. Yeah. So this is by Off the Record Karaoke, which is so funny because there's a Christian melodic hardcore band from Tooth and Nail Records called Off the Record, but Off the Record is also like one of the most used artist names of all time. So if you go to Off the Record on Spotify, it's hundreds and hundreds of CDs by unrelated people and this karaoke company. So that's pretty fun, right? It's like it's kind of like,
and it gets all synthy in the end there, so it almost feels like the video game version.
It's almost like a good dad rock version of, especially that twiddly like guitar solo thing. But then for some reason, I think I guess Off the Record, the karaoke company, officially uploaded their tracks to YouTube Music. Meanwhile, somebody else must have taken like the Off the Record karaoke video tracks that you put into the machine and tried to rip them themselves and upload it to the internet without, the karaoke company's official consent. And the karaoke company has not noticed that Vi Tai Dai Trang, that's the YouTube user's name, uploaded this without the karaoke company's consent. But you can tell maybe why the karaoke company doesn't care that someone uploaded the video track without their consent. Here's what it sounds like.
What?
It's the most like backwashed audio track you've ever heard. Like I don't know how
they even compress it that way.
I don't know, but it's
it's
so incredibly cursed. It's so incredibly cursed because if you listen, I listened to it with headphones, And it was like, if it was designed that way on purpose, they would be the greatest sound designer of all time, because it literally sounds like it's coming out of the sky.
Oh my gosh.
Like if you wear headphones, it feels like it's coming from 100 different directions. Like perfect 4-point whatever sound. Like it's just, you're encompassed in this warm, like washed over, not quite the right audio thing. Totally all just destroyed. And that, I don't need a soul. Because there's so many other covers, but you'll have to come join us at patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod to hear the rest.
Now, Dan, do you like this song more, less, or the same as you did before?
I like it more.
Nice. I like it about the same.
Yeah. I did get a little tired of it doing the research. If I had to hear that same sirens thing like back to back to back, unfortunately it wore out its welcome a little bit. But I think if I just take a little step back for a couple days, come back to it, put into some set lists, or just listen to Forget Not Slow Down, I'm going to love this song even more than I ever did.
Right on.
Yep.
Well, we hope you all have a good week. Stay healthy and stay safe out there.
Stay indoors, stay warm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everybody stay safe out there, especially in Texas and Oregon.
Yeah.
Blackouts all over the place. Stay toasty.